And so today, I'm very pleased to be here to launch a call to action on First Nations education. This call is going out to all sectors of Canadian society. The call is grounded in the ultimate goal of First Nations control of First Nations education. This has been our stated goal since 1972, and since that time, we've seen success and outcomes have improved. In fact, it should be noted, in the early 70s, we had a K-12 graduation rate that was around 12%. And now we're close to 50%, but we know we've still got a long way to go. And so the challenge now is to quicken the rate and pace of change and success in education. Simply put, the current reality where First Nation students receive an average of $2,000 less for education than other students in Canada is not working. Our call to action is a call that education be a door to opportunity and to success firmly rooted in our lands, our cultures, our languages, and our rights. This call to action is a statement that never again will education be used to tear our families apart and attack our languages and our cultures. A call to action is a call to all sectors of society as well, to Canadians, First Nations, governments, other governments, education institutes, the public and the private sectors. This call to action has 5 elements. I'll quickly go over them. The first of which is reconciliation. The federal government and provincial governments must reconcile our rights within education acts across the country. Canada's commitment to endorse the UN Declaration creates the appropriate framework to advance this work. Secondly, we're looking for a First Nations education guarantee. A secure fiscal framework is needed for funding for education, something that is enjoyed by every segment of Canadian society except for First Nations. And we were talking about some of these challenges just very briefly before we began here today. Thirdly, sustainability. Statutory funding arrangements based on real costs, indexation, and appropriate treatment for northern and remote communities. Fourth, systems. First Nations education must be supported through professional, accountable institutions like those available through school boards and commissions to deliver second and third level supports, including First Nations curriculum and immersion in First Nations languages. And fifthly, support and partnership. That we create a learning environment in our communities, in our families, and that we link with organizations, the public and private sector, to invest in our schools and for our kids. And so I am asking all Canadians to join us in this call to action. We're looking to the federal government to fulfill its recent commitment to work with us hand in hand to reform and strengthen First Nations education and establish an education guarantee for our citizens. This approach of partnership and respect is consistent with the principles, as I was saying, of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We're looking to provincial governments to work with us to build First Nations education facilities and curriculum, to ensure those second and third level supports, and to assist in effective coordination so that our students and our institutions have the full recognition and receive fully equitable investments. We're looking to organizations and education institutes to support First Nations outcomes at every stage. Universities and colleges play a central role in recognizing our institutions and working in partnership with First Nations to support access and success of our students. I've been encouraged by the willingness of corporate Canada and the philanthropic community in this country to support us in our focus on supporting education for First Nations. We want you to consider investing in building schools, gymnasiums, libraries, and building hope and opportunity. And we call on all First Nations and Canadians to embrace a culture of learning, a call that means students right here at this school will be in a better position to fulfill their dreams, to achieve their goals both inside and outside the classroom. Right here at Nipissing First Nation, there's some good examples of these principles in action. There's strong leadership and community initiatives focused on reforming and strengthening First Nations education. They've fostered a strong culture of support for education within the community and initiated partnerships with education institutions. For example, the Ojibwe language program. I understand Zach will provide an example. This really warms the heart because our languages are threatened right across this country, over 50 languages. It is said that only 5% of our peoples can speak our languages fluently. It places us in a great dire need to make sure, and the leadership amongst the young is welcomed and necessary to make sure that our languages will survive and thrive indeed. The research protocol with Nipissing University. These are really groundbreaking types of initiatives that have occurred right here in these territories. The Biraban Community Service Learning Program. Really exciting to see university students expressing care and concern and mentoring students out in the communities. And I understand that that initiative occurs right here in the school as well. And my heart was warmed to hear that. We need to grow those kinds of concepts out. And that Aboriginal Circle on Education and establishment of a new research chair of Aboriginal education at the university. And so Laurie McLaren deserves, with her colleagues at the university, a lot of credit. The push from the chief and council, they deserve a lot of credit for pushing to make sure there are structural responses to the gaps that exist in education for First Nations. And so, to conclude, this call to action is about building stronger First Nations, which will build a stronger Canada. Together, the idea is that we can spark success, we can create jobs, and we can build the economy. Increasing our graduation rates to match those of other Canadians would inject an additional $71 billion into Canada's economy over the next 10 years. That's a major contribution that our people can and will make, and help to eliminate the employment gap. So education is something that in my family as well has been recognized as a key that unlocks our full potential. It creates stronger and healthier First Nations citizens and stronger and healthier First Nations communities. First Nations want to work with governments, other governments, education institutions like Nipissing University, and the public and private sector to advance First Nations education, to develop a fundamentally new approach, and this is what's required. We do need a fundamentally new approach that turns the page on the Indian residential school era. Thank you.